When my phone rattled against the counter that morning, I let it buzz twice before I looked. Marigold, my daughter everyone calls her Mary, flashed on the screen for the third time. She never called that many times unless there was a dollar amount attached. "Dad, finally," she said, breath fast and brittle. "Chase and I need to see you about the mortgage. Today." I glanced around my quiet La Jolla apartment, all second-hand wood and a coffee maker old enough to vote. The only luxury I'd kept in retirement was the ocean winking through my window. Everything else had gone to her dreams. "Sure, sweetheart. 2 o'clock?" "Don't be late," she said, and hung up. At 1:55, I pulled up to their Spanish style on Bayshore Court. Sun on clay tiles, lawn sharp enough to cut. The house was listed at $699,000. I'd put $170,000 down and signed for 60% ownership so they could start strong. Chase opened the door in fresh sneakers and a polo worth my monthly groceries. "Hey, Leo," he said. "Not Dad, just Leo." Mary sat on a leather sectional. I knew it cost $12,000 because I'd seen the receipt when I helped move it. She looked like her mother at that age, striking, and just as capable of lighting a room. But where Sarah had been warmth, this version of my daughter felt distant, calibrated. "We wanted to go over the restaurant launch," Chase began. "Saffron and Stone on Adams Avenue. We're bumping against a few last-minute costs. The walk-in compressor. Health inspection won't pass unless we replace it. We need $14,500. "You remember our agreement," I said. "I contributed $118,000 in startup capital. Operations were on you." He leaned forward. "You're on the title, Leo, 60%. If we stumble, you stumble." I swallowed the reply I wanted to make and asked when the grand opening was. Mary glanced at her nails. "We're keeping it intimate. Industry folks, critics, a few close friends." Close friends, not the father who'd co-signed their future, not the man who'd eaten rice and beans so he could cover their down payment. "When is it?" I asked. "Next Friday," Chase said, "but it's tight," he added. "We don't want to confuse the brand." On the drive home in my dented Civic, traffic forced me to sit with the ache. I remembered teaching Mary long division at our kitchen table, holding her when her mother died, bailing her out after a failed venture. I was good enough to underwrite a dream, but not good enough to be seen in it. At sunset, I pulled the mortgage packet from my file drawer and reread the clause I'd insisted on, over Chase's objections. In the event of a material change, either party may suspend payment pending review. What happens when a father stops being the ATM and starts being a strategist? Stay tuned. A material change becomes a lever. Like the story? Tap subscribe and tell me where you're listening from.
I called Elliot Barnes, the attorney I trust to translate contracts into plain English. He met me downtown, slid his glasses down his nose, and tapped the paragraph I'd circled. "That's your lifeline, Leo. You can pause your contribution, demand an audit, and the bank can't steamroll you. You own 60%. They can't refinance, sell, or foreclose without you in the loop. What if I simply stop paying?" He folded his hands. "They'll get a 15-day notice, then 30. At 60 days, the bank reports to bureaus. With your profile, no debt, decades spotless, one blip is a bruise. With Chase's, it's a cliff." I went home, stared at the automatic payment set to fire in 6 days, and canceled it. The confirmation code chimed in the silence like a starter's pistol. That night, I drove past Saffron and Stone. Through the windows, I saw a room full of laughter and controlled light. A chalkboard read, "Grand Opening, Invitation Only." I parked across the street and watched my daughter glide through guests in a black dress, the hostess she'd practiced being since she was 16. Chase held court by the bar, talking too loudly to a cluster of men in expensive shoes. When the door swung open, a slip of music and boast drifted out, completely self-made, built on grit, talent, business sense. I left before I could decide whether to take that personally. Back in my apartment, I warmed leftover pasta and reopened the spreadsheet I'd kept out of old habit, not spite. Down payment, $170,000. Restaurant seat, $118,000. Culinary courses years ago, $44,000. Mortgage contributions since closing, $26,000. Emergencies, car repair, dental, deposits, $4,800, total $362,800, and I still wasn't close family. I slept well for the first time in months. 2 weeks later, an email from Seabreeze Federal landed. Past due notice. Mortgage 15 days late. $150 fee added. Please remit within 15 days. I forwarded to Elliot. It begins, I typed. He replied, breathe, document, and don't answer their first calls. I didn't. By evening, my phone showed 6 missed calls, all from Chase. No voicemails. Pressure, not humility. I brewed good coffee I'd allowed myself to buy and watched the waves erase footprints on the sand. When the first notice hits, panic follows. There's a grocery aisle confrontation and a new secret debt surface. Subscribe so you don't miss the moment the tables truly turn.
Day 20. Vaughn's on Fay Avenue, coffee aisle. My phone lit with Chase's name. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Where the hell have you been?" he snapped. "Seabreeze sent a notice. The mortgage is late. Fix it." People edged their carts around me. I kept my voice level. "I've reassessed my obligations. I won't be funding a house I'm not welcome to enter." "You can't do this. You're on the note." "Actually, I can. Our agreement allows me to suspend payments when circumstances materially change. Excluding your primary investor from your grand opening qualifies." "That's childish." "Then call it a boundary." He sputtered something that started with "your" and ended with "unbelievable." I paid in cash and hung up. That night, Mari texted, "Are you okay? Chase says you're not answering." I waited until morning. "I'm fine. Taking long walks." "What's up? Can we talk? In person?" "Later." Doctor's appointment. Not strictly true, unless you count a coffee with a view as preventative medicine. 3 days later, the voicemail shifted from denial to diplomacy. "Leo, I'm sure this is an oversight. Let's get it sorted," Chase said, like we were colleagues reviewing a spreadsheet. I called Elliot instead. "What's their exposure at 30 days? Late fees double. At 60, credit agencies get alerted. If he's juggling cards or a business line, this will cascade." That afternoon, watering succulents on my balcony, I overheard my downstairs neighbor's landscaper talking too loudly into his phone. "Yeah, man, my cousin says Chase borrowed 15 grand from his brother to float payroll. The place is bleeding." So, private loans on top of missed mortgage. The picture sharpened, less a mural and more a set of cracks spidering under glossy paint. I took myself to Little Italy, split a carbonara with Elliot, and told him what I'd heard. "Good," he said, wiping his mouth. "Pressure reveals structure, or lack of it." On day 31, the bank would call, Elliot warned. "Be ready to sound like a man who knows where every dollar is buried." The bank rings next, and here's a very different dad.
Inez Rivera, the realtor who'd sold Mari and Chase their dream, stopped me near the pastry case at my favorite coffee shop. "Leo," she said brightly, until she read my face. "How did you like the opening?" "I wouldn't know," I said. "I wasn't invited." Her expression collapsed. "He told me you were out of town." She lowered her voice. "Also, off the record, Seabreeze flagged the account in our title office. If it hits 60 days, they'll move fast. That house has equity and they don't like risk." I thanked her for telling me what everyone in her circle was already whispering. Reputation travels faster than process servers. On day 31, my phone rang. Unknown number. "This is Camille from Seabreeze Federal's loan servicing. Our records show your mortgage is 31 days past due. As majority co-signer, you're responsible for bringing the account current." "I'm also entitled to suspend payment pending review," I said. "Our agreement includes a material adverse change clause. I've requested a full accounting of how my capital was used and a full financial review of the household." A pause. "Mr. Hart," "Leo," I corrected gently. "My credit's 780, no revolving debt, no missed payments in 4 decades. One late mark won't sink me.
Your other borrower? He's sitting on business liabilities and new derivative delinquencies if you report him. She exhaled. You've thought this through. 30 years managing other people's risk will do that to a man. When we hung up, I stared at the bay until the horizon went sharp again. A text buzzed from an unfamiliar number. This is Daniel, Chase's brother. Call me. We need to talk about what you're doing to my family. I deleted it. That night I didn't sleep. I kept replaying Mari at 7, failing a math quiz and crying into my shirt, and me coaching her through it with nickels and patience. Where had that girl gone? What had I taught her by saying yes so often she forgot how to ask? The next morning, Sophie at the coffee bar leaned in. Mr. Hart, someone came by asking your routine. Dark hair, expensive watch. Said he was an old friend. I shook my head. Not a friend. If he returns, don't tell him a thing. I filed a police report for documentation. Family disputes get weird, the officer said kindly. Keep notes. I already was. From whispers to courtrooms, a bargain bin lawsuit backfires and a judge sets the tone. If you're finding this cathartic, hit follow so you don't miss the gavel.
The envelope arrived on a Thursday. Demand letter from a strip mall firm in El Cajon. According to their theory, I was in breach for withholding obligated funds. Elliot smirked. Amateurs. We'll get it dismissed and maybe earn coffee money and sanctions. That weekend, the coffee shop barista pulled me aside again. He came back, asked what time you usually show. I kept my routine loose and filed a supplemental mote with the police. Desperation had moved from the bank ledger into real life. On hearing day, downtown air smelled like hot concrete and boiled nerves. Judge Elena Park took the bench, silver hair pulled back, patience thin. Chase's attorney adjusted his tie 7 times in 3 minutes. Your Honor, my client's father-in-law. Mr. Hart, Judge Park corrected, eyes sliding to Elliot. Have you both read the mortgage rider, Section 7C specifically? Counsel started to argue ambiguity. The judge cut him off. There is no ambiguity. The rider permits suspension pending review upon a material change. Mr. Barnes, did your client notify both the bank and Mr. Wagner? Elliot slid copies onto the clerk's desk, filed and served. Has Mr. Wagner provided the requested accounting? Judge Park asked. Silence. Paper rustle. I'll take that as a no. This is frivolous. Dismissed with prejudice. Sanctions of $1,100 payable to Mr. Hart within 30 days. Outside, sunlight felt harsher. Chase caught my shoulder on the courthouse steps. This isn't over. Elliot's hand tightened on my elbow to keep me moving, but I turned. You're right. It's not. You're now down $1,100 plus 2 missed payments and fees, and that's before your brother's $15,000 starts burning a hole in your conscience. You're destroying your daughter's life, he said, voice raw. Everything she worked for. Everything I paid for, you mean? When you told that room you were self-made, did you believe it? Or did you just assume the man who made it possible would sit quietly in the back and clap? He balled his fists, then thought better of it. Elliot stepped between us, all steel in a suit. Chase spat. Stay away from my family. She was my family before you met her, I said, and kept walking. That afternoon, my phone rang again. Rita Newen from County Health. Saffron and Stone is closed for 48 hours. Improper storage, hand-washing issues, and pest activity. I pictured invoices piling up in a kitchen that looked great on social, but cut corners in the heat. With doors padlocked and credit cracking, the next blow hits where it hurts. Reputation. Brings a grocery aisle truth, a foreclosure clock, and a plea that sounds different. Subscribe so you're there when it breaks.
The fines were only $800. The real cost was silence, followed by rumor. Inez called that evening, her voice tight. 2 vendors asked me if foreclosure papers were in play. Someone posted in the business association about late payments. Word's out. 3 days later, Seabreeze emailed a notice of intent to foreclose, 30 days to bring the account current or face proceedings. 3 months late at $3,250 each, $9,750, plus fees and that sanction the court awarded me. Impossible money for a restaurant in freefall. I bumped into them by accident at Whole Foods. Heard Maury first. "We should be at Costco," she said, voice low. Chase hissed back something about appearances. The cart held generic pasta and bruised tomatoes. When they saw me, Maury's face drained. Chase stepped between us as if I were the threat. "We don't need your commentary," he said. "Apparently, you needed $362,800 of it over 5 years," I said, not unkindly. "But who's counting?" Later that night, my phone lit up with Maury's name. Her voice was shredded. "Dad, Seabreeze gave us 30 days. We'll lose the house. Please, I'll do anything." "Anything?" I asked. "Even tell the truth about why I was left on the curb outside your dream?" He was quiet. Then, "Chase's pride, my cowardice. We wanted to look independent. We thought having you there would make us seem like kids." "You wanted my money, not my presence," I said. "Love isn't a debit card that only works when you've overdrafted." She sobbed. I swallowed hard. "I'll think about it. But next time we talk, it's both of you, with numbers, with honesty. You have 30 days, same clock as the bank." The next morning, an assistant manager from the restaurant called me, trembling. "3 of us haven't been paid in weeks. Someone from the IRS came by about payroll taxes." Payroll taxes are the debts that never let you forget. Interest and penalties would stalk them into any new life they tried to build. The path from arrogance to confession is short once gravity takes hold. They finally knock on my door, no gloss, no filters. I make an offer with terms that sting and save. If you're leaning in, hit like and keep going.
They came on a Tuesday, not the polished pair from opening night. These two looked hollowed out. Chase had lost the watch and the swagger. Maury's eyes were raw. "You wanted the truth?" she said, twisting a tissue. "Here it is. Chase convinced me excluding you would signal independence to critics and investors. I went along because fighting him felt harder than hurting you. Afterward, he lied about why you weren't there." I nodded, kept my mouth shut. "That's on me." Chase swallowed. "I was intimidated, Leo. You're steady. You've done well. I've managed a Wendy's and a spreadsheet with more red than black. I told myself I was protecting our brand. Really, I was protecting my ego." He stared at the floor. "We sold the BMW. Got 32, owed 38. Sold the living room set. 8 grand. We sleep on an air mattress. Daniel, my brother, served me for the 15 I borrowed. And the IRS..." He stopped. I looked at my daughter. "And you, what do you want?" She lifted her head. "My dad back. A chance to act like the person you raised, not the person I became." I walked to the window, the ocean doing what oceans do, patient, relentless. "I won't let you drown," I said, "but I won't toss you a yacht either. Here are my terms. 1. I'll bring the mortgage current, arrears, late fees, and prepay the next 3 months. About $26,900 total. You'll get the bank off your neck and time to breathe. 2. You list Saffron and Stone immediately and accept the first fair offer. No more throwing good money after a bad plan. Use proceeds to pay staff and suppliers before yourselves. 3. Chase repays his brother in full, even if it takes years. You don't scorch family bridges. 4. You both do real financial counseling and marital counseling if you want to keep this together. I want proof of both. 5. The one that matters. Each of you writes me a letter, handwritten, what you learned, how you'll be different. You have 30 days. And a bonus term. Dinner here once a month. No phones, no asks, just us." Maury cried, the relieved kind. Chase stuck out his hand.
I don't deserve it." "You don't," I said, "but Mari does. And I do. I deserve a family that sees me." Mercy is easy to promise, hard to practice. Watch what they do, not what they say. Follow so you don't miss the letters that changed everything.
The wire hit Seabreeze the next morning. Memo. Final assistance. I stood on my balcony, coffee in hand, and let the salt wind talk me down from the what-ifs. Elliot called. "You sure?" "I'm sure," I said. "Not because they earned it, because I'm done using money to manage feelings. These are terms, not bailouts." That afternoon, I drove past the restaurant. A sun-bleached, for sale sign leaned in the front window. Under it, "Thank you for your support. New ownership coming soon." It stung for Mari, I knew, but survival is sometimes surrendering the flag. A week later, 2 envelopes arrived, real stationery, real stamps. I made a fresh pot, sat where the ocean and ink could both quiet a man, and opened Mari's first. "Dear Dad," it began. No daddy, no strategic sweetener. She wrote about confusing generosity with obligation, and love with access. About how self-made is a myth when someone else paid the tuition, the down payment, the first month's rent on your dream. She wrote about Sarah, my late wife, who told her I was a lighthouse, steady and unthanked. She confessed that she mistook steadiness for something infinite and faceless, not a person. "I'm 28. It's late to learn boundaries aren't punishments," she wrote, "but I'm learning." Chase's letter was shorter, less elegant, more naked. "I was jealous," he wrote, "of the way she looks at you when something breaks, of your calm, your competence. I wanted to give her something you couldn't. Excluding you was me pretending I could. My pride cost us everything. I'm working 2 jobs, Panera by day, bartending by night. We're in counseling. I'll repay Daniel. I'll spend the next decade earning my place at your table." I set their letters on the table, put my hand on them like a blessing, and called. "Sunday dinner?" I asked. "This weekend?" Mari made a noise between laugh and sob. "Yes. We'll bring groceries. We can afford carbonara ingredients. We're broke, not broken," Chase said in the background. Good line, I thought. Better truth. We talked logistics, not money. For the first time in months, my pulse stayed steady the whole call. Words are one thing. Following through is another.
The sale closed for $92,000, lease and equipment. After paying overdue wages, suppliers, and odds and ends, they walked with around $15,000 and their names intact. Elliot confirmed it over the phone. Clean exit. Scarred, but clean. Sunday arrived soft and bright. They showed up at 3 with paper bags and nervous smiles. We cooked shoulder to shoulder in my small kitchen. Mari and Lazone with eggs and pecorino, me chopping bacon, Chase washing dishes as if cleanliness could atone. When we sat, the carbonara sang. "You taught me this at 16, she said, during the lean year after Mom's treatments. Delicious on a budget." "I remember," I said, and did. After plates were cleared, we carried glasses to the balcony. The air tasted like salt in late summer. Chase kept his eyes on the horizon. "I need to say something. Not for you, for me. The opening wasn't just optics. I was competing with a ghost made of competence and steadiness. I tried to beat you by pretending you didn't exist. Turns out the only way to earn respect is to give it. You weren't my opponent, Leo. You were the map I refused to read." The kid was growing up in front of me. Inside, Mari pulled a folded sheet from her purse. "We want to pay you back," she said. "The $26,900? $200 a month. It'll take forever, but we want to do it." I did the math without meaning to. 11 years and change. "You'll be 39, I told her. Chase will be pushing 50. I'll be old enough to order the senior menu without irony. They smiled.
hopeful and tight. Keep your money, I said. Invest it in your foundation. Budget. Build a cushion. Pay Daniel. Pay the IRS. Become the adults your letters promise. If you pay me back, make it with Sunday dinners, with phones face down and honesty face up. Mari exhaled, then laughed, wet-eyed. How did you get so wise? Pain, I said, and practice not fixing everything the second it hurts. They left before 9, driving a used Toyota they owned free and clear. I stood on the balcony until the sky darkened, a glass of whiskey sweating in my hand, and felt something I hadn't in months, unclenched. One last message, Lance, the kind that can't be faked. In Part 10, a lighthouse lesson and a promise to the future. If this story resonates, follow for more.
September slid in on clean light. I was halfway through the newspaper when my phone buzzed. L, our realtor, confirmed the last signature had dried. Saffron and Stone was no longer theirs. Mari texted a photo, the 3 of us at her wedding, framed. Found it while unpacking, she wrote. You looked so happy. I was. I am again. We kept our rule. We didn't talk money unless necessary. We talked books, recipes, small victories. Chase showed me his entry-level offer from Merrill Lynch. Not glamorous, he said, grinning crooked, but honest, with benefits. Everyone starts somewhere, I told him. Where you finish is built on whether you learn. Later, on my balcony, he confessed the thing that had haunted him. I was jealous of how she trusted you, he said. Excluding you was me trying to be the man I wasn't yet. I put a hand on the railing. You gave her what I couldn't. A partner. We aren't rivals, Chase. We are family, if you choose to be. That night, another text from Mari. Thank you for teaching us what Mom tried to teach me, that love without boundaries isn't love, it's permission to fall apart. We see you, Dad, not as a wallet, as our lighthouse. I thought about the past 6 months, the missed payments, the quiet resolve, the courtroom, the padlocked door on a dream, and the letters that bridged a canyon. Revenge hadn't been sweet, it had been necessary. A course correction. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for a drowning person is refuse to jump in with pockets full of rocks. I raised my glass to the water, to steady things that take longer than we want, but outlast what we fear. To second chances, I said to the wind, and to being close enough to earn them. Down in Normal Heights, 2 people I love were starting over in a small apartment they could actually afford, probably already arguing about whose turn it was to do dishes. Good. Ordinary is underrated. Ordinary with honesty is a miracle. I'm not carrying them anymore. I'm what Sarah always said I was, a lighthouse. Always there, never moving, bright enough to guide, never arrogant enough to steer. Thanks for listening. If this journey spoke to you, tap like, subscribe, and drop a comment about where you tuned in from. Ready for the next story? Click the next episode, another true tale of boundaries, grit, and the kind of love that holds its ground.